the priority on jungle bans, I feel like the Azir has to go up in priority. I mean, if SK didn't watch any of the Challenger series and were like, we'll give Perks Azir, now they feel the pain. After taking a later team fight in a choke point against his Azir, I think you have to now look to first pick it for Fox. We know Fox has played it before. It's one of his most played champions from Summer.
Yeah, it really is. 3 games played in Summer, along with the likes of Jace, along with Victor as well. Something that went all the way through. So there is that priority you've mentioned, Stress. The Azir has been banned away.
But then what do they now ban instead? The Fizz was the one that was their first ban with the Elise.
And so, Gangplank.
Yeah, do they leave the Gangplank or the Fizz up? Now, I guess Fox may be more of a Fizz player than Freddy is a Gangplank player. I would like to say.
I share the sentiment, but these teams have been in the dark. We were expecting a carry from Smitty J, and he pulls out Maokai. I mean...
Here's the thing, though. Here's the other side of this coin. SK Gaming composition was not a bad composition. It didn't even fail. It was the execution of their composition in the last game that was the biggest undoing later into the game. So do they just first pick the Lulu again? Try and run almost exactly the same thing. Because now the Gangplank is available. You've got Gangplank, Fiora, the Azir not available, Victor is there as a mid lane pick here. So there are a lot of options here for SK to first pick, but they're giving a lot of strong picks over to Gamers 2.
Well, I guess that may be why Gamers 2 elected for red side this game. Having those 2 picks in the first rotation, Gamers 2 do not modify their ban strategy. Rek'Sai from Lee Sin. And seeing how effectively Noxiac played on Alistar, I can understand that Braum pick. For SK, they are currently thinking along the lines that you are Stress, and maybe execution. Analyst Desk was also saying the fairly one-dimensional comp of a single carry Tristana, and the Lulu's locked in.
Oh, I'm not so sure on this, because if you are going to run a single carry comp against something like a Gangplank, who will ever be able to duel a Gangplank or a Fiora, if that's the composition they go for? It is only a Lulu that has been locked in so far, so it doesn't tell the entire tale of the champion select, but there's a lot still to be picked up from both teams.
And something to also mention, Smitty J is currently undefeated on Riven. 3 games played, 3 victories. It's important to note, because if they do not pick Gangplank this time around, it is a potential counter pick if Gamers 2 can find the correct lanes. And may at least thwart Freddy's desires to play a Gangplank. We should also remember that Gangplank has been played mid, mostly over in the east.
Yeah.
Primarily a mid laner. But for the first rotation, again, Jesse's going to get his Kalista.
Smitty J has also played Riven into games where it hasn't been a Rumble or a Gangplank matchup. We haven't seen Smitty J since the Gangplank changes in competitive. The game that got them here, Gamers 2 won from a Riven flank into a losing situation teamfight that caught 4 people. Smitty J is a Riven main player. He will favor that champion for any time he can get it. But a lot of the time, the meta, the lane matchup, the team compositions don't quite fit it. There are a lot of options, as you alluded to, available, but G2, they're going to go with the same again from the last game, and why not? Jesse got the lead. Hybrid on Thresh did a decent job here and there. A couple of missed hooks, but nothing.
Found the one that mattered onto Candy.
Yeah, exactly. There was a game-winning hook in there as well.
Once you're in the Baron pit. I like the change here. A damage dealer in that mid lane from Fox's Victor, which means that's either going to be a Freddy or Noxiac Lulu, which is something we should keep our eyes on. Sven's going to have arguably one of the top priority junglers in Gragas, and with Lee Sin, Elise, and Rek'Sai off the table, does Kikis lean back onto a Nidalee? Or does he want to try the Kha'Zix again? I feel like this is where he'll pick his jungler.
We've also seen Rengar come out from him. In the games against Team Dignitas, that has been an option. Kikis certainly has maintained his diverse champion pool. Is going to opt, however, for the Kha'Zix once again. I mean, Victor this time, now that they see it's a damage mid laner, somebody else that's squishy, he has another target to jump on. One less thread of utility coming from that middle lane. And some utility coming out from the Gamers 2 mid lane side as well.
I already prefer at least some of the adaptation here from both teams. Orianna I quite like with the ball delivery system that a Kha'Zix is going to offer you. The team fight power, the wave clear, I think is good. Similar situation for Fox's Victor. So going back to the drawing board from their Game 1 picks and bans. And if this Alistar gets locked in, this is Freddy playing an AP Lulu top lane. It's not a sentence I was expecting to say today.
No, not at all. So different.
All of the priority on the likes of Gangplank, on the likes of Fiora that we see from every other region, but not today here in Europe.
I wonder if we'll see Smitty J go for something like a Fiora here. Now, okay, there is no main tank for Gamers 2 here. We may just see something like the Maokai that he played in the last game. I've seen it over in China, the Lulu-Fiora matchup is not one that tends to go particularly well in Lulu's favor. There's only so long that you can slow and polymorph a Fiora for. The reason we're talking about Fiora, guys, is we are on 515. There's been so much priority on Fiora across the world when it comes to picks and bans. And there's another champion we've seen across the world as well. Malphite being picked a lot over in LCK, a little bit in LPL as well. Very heavy engage tool. The Unstoppable Force, that is a quintessential Season 2 ball delivery system that you cannot run away from.
That is the entirety of Gamers 2 team composition now.
Yep.
Let's throw Lee Sin and Kha'Zix in. Let's hope one of them can deliver a shockwave, and then just get Jesse clean up house. If it doesn't work, there is the potential for counterplay. A Gragas disengage, there is a Lulu Wild Growth, there's a Buster Shot. So there are some tools for SK to deal with that engage on the assumption they don't just get insta-gibbed. So positional errors are going to be even more painfully punished for SK this game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen a team composition where you throw so many people into a team. You got a Malphite, you got a Kha'Zix,
and Thresh.
You got Fate's Call.
Yes, exactly.
So much, so much. But you know, this composition out of SK is basically saying the same again, but we've got more damage coming from the Victor this time, more wave clear. So
and similar story for Gamers 2 with the Orianna in that mid lane. Going to be doing a slightly different team fight to the Azir. There's your team comps. Gamers 2 subscribing to the Jin Air Greenwing style of team comp. Go forward and trample anything in front of you. It got Jin Air to the finals of their regional qualifier. It wasn't enough to overcome KT. And let's see whether or not Gamers 2 can overcome SK. Jump on Twitter, guys. You can let us know who you think will be victorious. SK Gaming down 0-1 this series. And we're going to have a very brief pause straight out of the gates.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
I was going to say we've got Shamrock, Malphite, Luck of the Irish, maybe with Gamers 2, but clearly not, as we go straight into a pause. But I want to talk about Jinna, actually, specifically Trace with his Malphite, which does tie into this game. There is a link there. You know, the compositions that they're running have been fairly simple, and honestly, that's what Gamers 2 are kind of running here. It's a fairly simple composition that just wants to team fight. There's not really too many other options in small enclosed spaces like we saw them favor in the end of the last game, which won them the game. Malphite, obviously, very reliable engage, pretty easy to connect onto a couple of carries if they stack. Problem is, if the carries don't stack, if SK don't allow that ultimate, it's going to be a difficult team fight because then there's absolutely nothing left for Gamers 2 to do. Yeah,
we need to find out whether or not SK can position correctly, respecting vision on the flanks, making sure that Smitty J doesn't actually come in from the sidelines. I have heard from production it is an audio-related problem with Fox's PC. So you can see the QA guys on stage looking into the matter now, and we will get back to the game as soon as possible. But I would also like to see an adjustment in the play style from Gamers 2 to maybe enable Kikis. I think it's going to be a little more difficult. Orianna should get shoved in by Victor early. Malphite should get shoved in by Lulu early, which means Kikis isn't necessarily going to be able to invade with some lane support, I feel like, but we'll need to see how the lane swap shakes out. It was initiated by SK Gaming in the previous match.
It was. I'm also interested to just see how that top lane matchup, if they end up in a 1 versus 1, is going to go. We don't see a whole lot of Malphite specifically into AP lanes. Typically see it into a lot of AD. So it may be a slightly tricky one.
It might be
at the beginning, but I'm not expecting too much.
I do feel like Gamers 2 will have more experience with a Malphite and against a Malphite because we see it more in the Challenger Series.
Very true.
Several seasons ago. I think spring we saw it a couple times. Last year we saw it a couple times. Summer it has fallen off a little.
A little. We had Denial in there. Denial. So the Challenger has this very weird top lane meta where we've got a lot of Irelia players, which means we have to have a lot of Maokai players, Malphite players, because that lane you just sit against each other and nothing happens.
You just farm for 12 years and then hope the rest of your team makes a good call.
we have a lot of Aurelia players. Wicked, Kuban, Smitty J plays Aurelia from time to time. So.
And I think it is important to note that while it is, very linear play style, the Malphite, it is quite difficult to play against because you can never make a mistake. You cannot misstep at all. And if we see those Dragon contests again, Gamers 2 may have some options available to them. So, audio issue has been resolved, and we are into Game 2 as Gamers 2 are looking for their second game against SK Gaming.
Welcome to the hell that was saying Gamers 2's all split long for me. Game 2 of Gamers 2's attempt at the LCS. It's kind of a tongue twister.
We'll get you some vocal coaching, Prince of Wales. We can resolve that problem.
Oh, you don't want me you don't want me to get one from Wales. Nobody will ever understand what the hell I'm saying.
Well, what they do understand is Svenskeren again with an invade. Look at the positioning from Gamers 2, and we'll at least get a defensive exit ward, and Jesse has replied in kind down in the bottom half. So let's see the lane swap shenanigans play out, and whether or not Gamers 2 want to match the lane swap, because it looks like they do on the mini-map at the very least. So we're just going to see how these 2v2 lanes play out, and it's the same matchup as previously, so we can actually see whether or not Candy and Noxia can make that work in their favor.
Yeah, because certainly Jesse kind of just ended up going even, as always, but then getting a slight lead, which tends to be as always for Jesse. He ends up about 10 CS up at about that 20-minute mark, but they passed the ward. They're going to a bush.
Dum-dum. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. Hybrid's gonna get jumped on, and he's in trouble! He's flashed away! The charge is being charged up, but the flash will be enough. And I got very excited for a summoner spell.
Sven body slammed the minions instead of the Thresh. I think he just was anticipating Hybrid kiting back and not to his tower. Hybrid's like, okay, I've got this thing called a tower here. I'm gonna go to it because that's where I want to be anyway. An attempt out of SK at making a play a little bit poorly executed, but they do, however, get the summoner. So it is a win overall. They will invade the red buff as well. Kikis is on his blue. Should just result in a buff trade.
Especially if Sven can repeat game. That's what we'll be looking to see from him. Whether or not they want to go for any sort of dive, maybe questionable. But for Jesse and Hybrid, they certainly don't want to push that wave out. As it stands, Perks' empowered auto attacks and aggressive use of command attack, allowing him to push Fox in. And we'll wait for Fox to get a few more levels on that death ray before he can start pushing back against Perks' Orianna. So much wave clear. I think that's going to be a fairly farm-centric lane, unless a jungler gets involved.
This is a little bit greedy from Kikis if Svenskeren was looking to protect his red with the Lulu. He started on his weak side, goes to the enemy weak side. That's always a little dangerous. Whereas you can see Sven has stayed on the strong side where the duo lane is. The thing is, Sven is on the strong side, so there will be no contest, so Kikis gets away with this one, but we've seen teams punished for plays like this before, where all it takes is, a laner going over and warding. Suddenly you've got all the information and you can get a pick from it, but both supports have stayed in the duo lanes.
We've actually seen both junglers punished for that exact call as well. Kikis was relatively aggressive in the spring split while playing for Unicorns of Love. Svenskeren and Freddy, in fact, both quite well known for being overly aggressive at times. Kikis sniffed out a potential flank here on Freddy, but he's simply not healthy enough to pick a fight.
And the analyst desk were talking about the lane swap from game 1, where there was the opportunity to punish Smitty J, to punish Gamers 2 for the lane swap that they opted for. There was the opportunity in this game to do it as well. Neither team has gone for it. And you can see how greedy Kikis was with even taking the Giant Krog as well. It leaves Sven's jungle entirely clear, aside from that ever so small Krog down at the bottom side. So it will punish Sven a little bit, but he will take the crab, maintain vision control, and now Kikis is back in his lower side jungle.
And I want to keep my eyes on Jesse and Hybrid and how well they interact with that Sentinel passive, that percentage HP damage that Hybrid is Oath Sworn. Against a melee support like Alistar, it should be, in theory, easy to proc. But they're not playing aggressive because of the fact Hybrid has no flash. And someone who is playing a little aggressive, Freddy's pushing that wave in. Even on CS with Kikis, so the pink ward will at least deny vision from Freddy. And he's going to be aware he's going to play a little safer. So all of the lanes pushing towards Gamers 2. Candy and Noxiac up top. You can see Freddy down in the bottom, and you can actually see Perks. Again, he's defending the wave that Fox shoved forward. So there's more options for Sven on where he'd like to play.
And Sven has all the control that he needs because he just spotted Kha'Zix on the bot side. There goes Noxiac.
He's found Jesse. Jesse's going to ride the Lantern out. There's an aggressive move by Noxiac, and he finds and chunks Jesse.
Now where does Sven go? He's going to take topside Crab as well. They know that Kikis is likely heading to his Wraiths right now, his Raptors. So will prevent any kind of gank top lane, even places a ward just outside the Tribush to make sure his duo lane stays safe. So Kikis has now been red for the last minute or so across the map, meaning he's had very little impact. He is, however, farming up slightly ahead of Sven Skeren from that early parting that Kikis had in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and of course, from these lanes, it was Gamers 2 that opted into the head-to-head lanes, and then just walked too close to the bush. Slightly unorthodox level 1 play from SK did not result in a kill. Kikis, remember, there was a ward placed outside the Tribush. This was by Sven Skeren earlier, so very smart warding. And Kikis is going to realize there's something a bit fishy. Something I talk about a whole lot is just how easy you can read your opponents. The moment Candy and Noxiac step back from aggressive positioning, I feel Kikis may have had a read on that. But we do see a teleport bottom. SmittyJ with an early Spectre's Cowl.
Yeah, let's get himself a efficient item just against the Magic matchup. Not really too much is going to happen in that bottom lane for a while. Malphite tends to do that to lanes, just kind of sits there, and it's when he teleports into other lanes with his ultimate up that things actually start getting a bit crazy.
Now this is one game where I'm a little more nervous for Gamers 2 if they are content to just play for late. I love Kalista scaling, I love Orianna scaling. I'm not in love with Kha'Zix scaling or Malphite despite the big tankiness. Whereas a Lulu, a Tristana, a Victor, a Gragas, and Alistar, the longer the game goes, the more I like this team composition. Well, one caveat is they cannot get engaged upon. They cannot get punished by Malphite.
For any Gamers 2 fans out there that didn't catch the last time that we saw Perkz play Orianna, he only played it once. He did have a 19 KDA in that game. So his Orianna proficiency is as good as his Azir proficiency. So I wouldn't be worried in the sense that G2, if it goes late, it's going to be an issue just because of not being able to connect to the carries. But I do kind of echo the sentiment that SK have a very difficult team composition to disrupt if they're warding properly and it starts getting late.
And it's important to note that that 19 KDA was in a game where Gamers 2 were technically losing. It was game 1 against Denial, and Denial had built up a big lead and then made a poor Dragon Call and got punished for it. A Riven plus Orianna engage cost Denial their first game in that series, and actually then the eventual third place match here. So Pink Ward's still alive for Kikis. He's going to come back to clear another ward from Freddy. And look at SmittyJ. He's got unstoppable force, and he's going to be close enough to engage. He's already caught Freddy. Ground Slam comes out. The Wild Growth is up. Freddy's got 1,000 HP to burn through. Kikis has flashed aggressively, as has SmittyJ. Here comes the Fat Man. Sven Skeren knocks him under a tower. First blood to Freddy. It is replied by SmittyJ at least. Now Smitty's going to look for that seismic shot. Steal movement speed and increase your own. He's going to throw it down already. He has some minions to fall back to. They trade 1-for-1.
1-for-1 off the engage from SmittyJ, but look at how much G2 used in that setup. It was fairly similar when it came to the summoners, but G2 just not really reading that Sven Skeren was around. Another good barrel from Sven puts Kikis into turret range, and those are the plays that G2 wanted to make in the first game. This is the kind of setup that they wanted with the Kha'Zix. Get onto what looks to be a low health target, but they don't read the Lulu ult. They don't read the Gragas being here already, and Freddy hangs on just enough, had just enough mana for that last spell to come out, keep himself alive that little bit longer so that Sven could get into range. And, G2, again, good attempt, a little bit messy execution.
We can trade 1-for-1, but SmittyJ, he hit his unstoppable force. That's important to note. Could be game-changing.
The reason I chuckle is because it's an ability that should be just easy to hit every time. But when you see even a player like Trace, just randomly unstoppable force because he's going to get a carry and they flash. Sure, he gets a flash. Worth it. But it just looks funny because then it's like, well, that's all of your team comp gone. It
certainly is. And with that engage on the bottom lane, Freddy's gone up top. And we see Noxiac and Candy Panda heading down to the bottom lane. Perkz has in fact used his shockwave already and is forcing Fox backwards. So no blue buff there for Perks. But he's got enough pressure on Fox and burned through enough of Fox's mana with the assist of Kikis and Hybrid to at least get some damage onto this outer turret.
Yeah, Fox has to back away from this. He cannot stay there with no mana right now.
But so much smarter from Gamers too. They have Hybrid as well as Kikis moving into the Raptor camp to somewhat discourage the engage from Sven on the side lane. So a little bit of upgrade and some growth from game 1 to game 2, where we don't see an overcommit in that middle lane and a disrespect of the darkness.
Yeah, and you can see just in general what G2 are doing, knowing that Fox wants to back, desperately has to back. They're pressuring both bot lane and around the dragon, so that if Fox ever does recall, if they see him go, it becomes an easy decision for Gamers 2 to just go for the objective, especially with Unstoppable Force back up with the teleport. There should be no reason that Gamers 2 don't get this dragon with ease.
Very heads-up play from Gamers 2. Pressure in the mid lane, pressure in the bottom lane. We saw Candy getting chunked out, and that allowed Jesse to leave the lane and secure dragon number 1 in favor of the challenger squad. Both supports have picked up Moby Boots, as well as those makings of the Relic Shields. And you can see the dragon importance for both of these squads. Similar sort of averages per game, despite I feel SK having a more focus on those dragons. Mostly because also they had pushing lanes a lot, and then pushing lanes allows you to kill backwards.
Yep. As we kind of discussed a little bit in game 1 though, G2 were one of the challenger teams that absolutely didn't care so much about dragons. So that's why their stats are, I guess, comparatively low compared to the inflated stats we have for Team Dignitas and Mowers when it comes to their hour-long epics in the finals.
There was a spot in the LCS on the line.
There was.
So teams playing with tempered aggression. And the second match here, once again, somewhat standard laning phase. We did have those Australia lanes, as they have been dubbed, with the duos up top. That's been reset. BF Sword and Avarice Blade for Candy Panda, same itemization as game 1. Jesse's got himself those Berserker's Greaves. No early home guards yet for Smitty J. But again, both teams content to farm up, content to hit at least 1 or 2 item spikes before looking for bigger engages.
And I really like the build out of Fox. It's one that we've seen a lot. There are kind of 2 or 3 different Victor builds. You either go for the heavy magic pen that we saw Power of Evil doing, or you go for cooldown boots, get the 2nd rank on Hex Core, upgrade the Q, the E, and nobody can ever push you in. You just clear every single wave in front of you and then look to build damage. I think this one leads to a lot more consistent play, but a play in the bottom lane is what's on the cards.
Let's find out. Teleport already being challenged from Smitty J, and we see Jesse's been able to make it out. Summoner heal's been used. Smitty's holding onto that unstoppable force, and Freddy, I believe, cancelled his teleport. It's on cooldown. 4 members of Gamers 2 are in the bottom lane as Kikis joined in on the party, and they're going to be trading top lane for bottom lane and summoner spells as well.
But the biggest thing to take away from that entire sequence, the respect that Candy Panda gave...
Oh, hold that thought. Fox has been caught by a shockwave, but it's Perks that's in the storm of chaos. Victor and Fox trying to get a kill down. Here comes Sven. A flash away from the barrel means Perks is running to the support. He's found Hybrid and Kikis. The taste of fear is out. Sven is alone. Not anymore. Noxiac has now jumped in. A new challenger appears, and it is not effective at all. Gamers 2 get 2. Candy Panda's going to rocket jump away. A reply leap flash. Taste of fear. The sting is down. Gamers 2 4-2. Hybrid eats a death sentence, but there's no one to follow, and G2 in the lead.
I was just about to praise SK for giving the Malphite room, and then they look and try and start a fight in the jungle, or from mid lane coming down towards the rest of the team. Perks is always going to kite down towards the team. He's got a Malphite with Unstoppable Force the other side of the map, so let's just make sure we close that distance and keep the fight going. G2 have so much damage at this point in the game. When you look at the Kazakhs in that situation, all they've got to do is connect part of their crowd control and follow it up. I was about to say, Candy Panda giving so much distance to the Unstoppable Force is one of the biggest factors when you look at the LCK games with Malphite in it, is how far teams sit away from the Malphite. Give it the room for the flash Unstoppable Force, and you'll never get engaged upon it. It looked like that's what SK were doing, and then they end up kind of screwing it up a little bit.
So difficult to give Malphite that much room and still hope to play somewhat aggressively. So this was the precursor to that team fight in the jungle.
Yeah, this was the all-in on Perks. Perks still has flash at this point, so good flash over the barrel, but the team are already moving for Gamers 2 right now. And look, it actually ends up into a bush bait here from Gamers 2. SK should know they just lost control of the bottom half of the map from that tower dying, and they go into their own jungle. Candy Panda jumps out, Kicker says, I can do what you can do, only better, and ends up picking up the kill. This is the game that Kickers actually has damage on Kha'Zix, and this is the game where SK have to now be careful.
Yeah, and while we were in that replay, we did actually catch the picture-in-picture of Hybrid being caught out. SK were able to punish Gamers 2. I didn't quite see the build-up, but Gamers 2 now, they're looking to punish SK. Noxiac's gone too far forward. He's got no unbreakable will. He's decided to give up his life. He's going to be traded. Now Fox looking for Jesse. Doesn't have that Blade of the Rune King completed yet. Here comes Perks. There is a Shockwave available. Jesse's a juicy target, but Fox is down. The Shockwave takes him out. Double kill for Perks. 2, 1, and 2 to join the carries of Kikis and Smitty J. And Gamers 2, they just bounce back with a bigger hit.
And it's because SK have basically gifted them the engages the last 2 times. SK overchase into the top lane. Noxiac with no ultimate decides to go aggressive, ends up getting caught and gives his life, which is, I mean, fine, but top lane hit Candy Panda.
Oh, Candy's now bitten off more than he can chew, and it doesn't taste sweet. The bitter taste of death. Gamers 2 are going to get the mid-outer turret. They may even get the top outer turret, and that's a 5,000 gold lead by punishing SK's decision.
They've been out of position so much for SK. Why did Candy Panda stay in that top lane? I mean, I guess he's just clearing out the minions at that point, but it's just greedy. But this is all the way back to the beginning when Hybrid got caught out. At this point, SK, okay, this is the kind of play that they can make and look to punish, but how and why do they end up top lane from this? They see the Kalista out on her own. They chase Kikis up to the top lane. And then at this point, Noxiac, I don't think Noxiac was expecting that much damage to come out from the Kha'Zix right then. At this point, tries to minion taxi because Fox is coming, but he's not there in time. The timing is just all wrong for SK Gaming.
And completely punished. Jesse plays the most incredible bait game he's ever played. Not only did he allow those 2 kills to get set up, they then ran Candy Panda down as well. That gold lead also gives another dragon to Gamers 2. And that fed Kha'Zix at 17 minutes. Black Cleaver, Warrior Enchant, already completed. That's a lot of damage coming out before 20 minutes.
I feel like Jesse wasn't even aware he was the bait at that point. With how Noxiac just runs under the tower, okay? Jesse's just, I'm fine. I'm okay. That this Alistair's not got ult. He's not going to come in aggressively. Noxiac just gets absolutely melted by Kikis. Whew. This is not the same Kha'Zix from last game.
No, it's certainly not. But unfortunately for SK, the over-eagerness, I feel, is a better word, to catch Jesse, to punish a kill, may be costing them. Sven is sticking around. Flay's not going to connect, but there goes the command attack. Hybrid gets lobbed in with Fate's Call. The Wild Growth's already been used in Kickers. He's got the reset already. Level 11. He does leap forward, but he's not going to find more. Smitty J, Unstoppable Force is up. Let's see if we can find a target with the Frozen Heart already completed. Gamers 2 may just tower dive.
Yeah, well, I mean, the ult's gone at this point. Yes, Candy Panda's getting a tower in the bottom lane, but the rest of G2 want to be grouped in this game. This is the game they absolutely want to be 5.
Outer turret for inner turret. Another trade Gamers 2 will be happy with, and another kill.
And again, this comes from Svenskeren. They get wards. Look at the 3 wards in the topside jungle. 3 very good wards for SK, especially while behind. The problem is, Sven stays top jungle in the Raptor camp, even gets spotted by Perks from queuing over the wall, trying to set up a dive onto a mid-outer tower, which is still up, by the way. So you shouldn't be in your enemy jungle like that unless you're instantly going to gank. Sven sticks around, gets caught out, and it results in this situation where it's an inner for an outer. SK are caught sleeping once again.
They cannot afford to make those mistakes. Luckily for SK, there is pretty good wave clear with that Luden's Echo Victor, as well as Lulu. So there is some some hope in stalling the game out. The problem for SK, they cannot do that for long. The threat of a Malphite under tower plus Shockwave will end them.
Yep.
And I also think we have to call out the elephant in the room. SK are making more positional errors than we actually are used to seeing from them. You know, yes, the team is in promo tournament from the summer split. They have had a substitution, but this is not something that we associated with SK Gaming throughout the summer split of the LCS. They could make it to late game relatively well against some of the best teams in Europe. And those pink wards are stacking for Gamers 2. I mean, it's in the name. They want 2-0, they need 2 pink wards.
Gamers 2.
There's 2 gamers on the team.
I mean, let's put it this way. Here's the real bait on this one, Quickshot. If Sven goes to clear that, he's now going to put down 10 attacks to clear that ward. So maybe they'll catch him out again. Don't do that in solo queue. It's not worth it.
Nope.
Don't double pink ward. It's a joke.
Smitty J cares not for Candy Panda. Seismic shot out, and that Frozen Heart's allowing him to keep alive. The problem is, here comes the support of Freddy. Smitty's got unstoppable force. He's decided to go aggressively. Summoner heal's been used. Smitty gets Buster shots away. Candy Rocket jumps forward, and he does have Wild Growth. It will keep him alive for a few seconds longer. Smitty's not going to be able to flash over the wall, but look at Baron. It's going to get stolen. SK secures it. Gamers 2 made the Baron bait, and it didn't work off. Jesse's hopping and skipping and jumping and rending, but he won't be able to kill Noxiac yet. Sven lost his life with Noxiac. They traded it for Smitty and a Baron.
It's deja vu again in 2 different instances. Gamers 2 start an objective and mess up the smite like we saw in game 1 with a Kalista. I want to see exactly the sequence right at the end when it comes to the rend and the smite, because this is the second time that G2 have messed this up in 2 games. The bottom lane fight's already going. Sven comes in. They get a lot of... That rend looked to be at about 2,500 on Kalista. Jesse, I feel way too high. There was no way that G2 had actually pre-planned that out with... Normally you'll just pick a point and say, we'll rend and smite at this point, and it's easy, it's fine. That's the Baron picked up.
Not this time.
Not this time at all.
2, and with SK getting it on their Lulu, their Victor, and their Tristana, the 3 most important members of the team when it comes to team fights and pressure in lane. Despite being down in gold, SK now have the pushing power. We see a Zeke's Harbinger, I believe, being built up for Noxiac. Freddy's in trouble. Wild Growth is used. Hybrid and Perks, they're looking for more. Shockwave pulls Freddy backwards, and here comes Smitty J. He's got unstoppable force. He's going to look for a target. He's got Freddy, and he's got... Freddy's down. Sven's trying to counter-engage. Kickers on the defensive. Explosive Cast knocks him out. Jesse's still hopping away. Chaos Storm is chasing him, and Candy Panda is chunked out of the fight. SK Gaming were now overcommitted. They had Baron buff. They had the ability to push lanes, but they did not have the ability to win that team fight. 2 for 1 in favor of Gamers 2.
They didn't clear out the flanks and give Gamers 2 the easy engage using the teleport. Didn't actually connect onto the carries, but did connect onto the utility, which then makes Candy Panda second guess himself. If he doesn't have all of those shields up against this Kha'Zix, up against this Kalista, he will fall victim to their damage. And was it the double pink wards that played off in this situation?
Straight up death sentence from Hybrid.
And then at this point, look, Candy Panda knows he's got to back away. Freddy is angling himself towards the teleport because he's got no other options. Hybrid was coming in with the Fate's Call anyway. And from here, Candy Panda, he's still landing attacks, but as soon as another member falls, as soon as Gragas dies, Candy Panda gets chunked out by Orianna and has to back away.
And I have to give credit to Jesse's Kalista play. This game, he's been under quite a lot of threat up in that top lane, now in the mid lane, and he's able to kite around the damage that SK's putting down. Unfortunately for Gamers 2, the kills that they accrue will not allow them to defend their outer tower, and that means SK will still keep the gold deficit in touching distance. But for G2, they've got a spattering of wards on the bottom half of the map. They've got themselves 3 dragons already. It's a couple minutes till the next one's up. And they're fairly comfortable. 108 on Kalista, farming up. Very beefy, tanky top lane. Last Whisper for Kickers. I mean, Gamers 2 have the tools they need to win more team fights like they've already done it. 13-5 in kills.
Yeah, they absolutely do. One thing that Gamers 2 are slightly struggling on is keeping the SK flanks de-warded, because since they've not got a Sightstone jungler, they've had to opt for the ward upgrade on the trinkets for Kikis, which gives them one less sweeper, which means the rest of them have to buy more pinks, which they have been investing on, but the placement has been very questionable with the two of them. But G2 looking for the bottom lane now. They don't have full vision control of that bottom side jungle. They've only got a few wards behind them.
Look at the control and the zoning at the command attack from Perks is offering Gamers 2. We did see the red buff steal as well. Jesse nicking that away from Candy Panda. And G2 will just brute force the bottom inner turret. We're only 25 minutes into this game, and G2, they're pushing their lead very effectively.
And this time the siege is much better out of Gamers 2. It's still perhaps not the standard way of just sieging a tower. It's more that the Malphite walks forward and everybody else moves back from SK, because you don't want to be in range. From then they've got the Orianna, they've got the Kalista, which are going to be able to push fairly quickly. So, I mean, it's a different way of doing it. One we've seen in LPL, seen in LCK. We were wondering when it would start filtering through to Europe. We didn't see it at all through our playoffs, but certainly seems to have arrived today as patch 5.15 hit.
Yeah, good reminder for everybody. Promotion tournament for Europe and North America is on 5.15. And you can see Malphite a big impact. 4-1 and 2 thus far. Senpai kept frozen hot. Candy Panda did complete a Last Whisper fairly recently, so once this Harbinger gets completed by Noxiac, there will be a lot of damage that can come out, and you need that crit and armor pen to get through Malphite. Gamers 2 need to be a little careful. They've grouped themselves up, and for a moment, I thought they might be at risk of being engaged under the jungle. Smitty J held the trigger, though.
One thing, though, with that Harbinger, I do prefer the Phantom Dancer build on AD carry. Because, so, with a Phantom Dancer and an Infinity Edge, plus the Harbinger when it's active, you have 105% crit chance. So you crit on every attack. Problem now is, with the Static Shiv, it's actually only 90%. So, okay, maybe one crit's not going to be the be-all, end-all, but that's 10% less chance that you're going to crit. I like the whole, I'm going to crit you every single time I hit you. So, I mean, it's not that big of a factor, but certainly the Static Shiv for wave clear I don't actually feel was necessary in a Victor, in a Lulu comp. Especially since Victor's got cooldown reduction as well.
Yeah, and when you have to respect the tower diving power of a Malphite Orianna. Now Baron will be respawning in 45 seconds. Vision has already begun to be set up for Gamers 2, and the wave was shoved in top lane. We can see Smitty J trying to push the wave up bottom lane. So Gamers 2, they're planning this Baron. They've got deep vision. They're trying to get those pushing lanes. So smart, heads up, proactive play, knowing the objective is going to respawn shortly.
It's better for them for certain. They are, however, recalling from it. So they will obviously lose a little bit of the control should SK want to push up. But they did manage to de-ward a lot of the river wards. The only two really that SK have are kind of deep into their own jungle. But SK are pushing out through the mid side. Teleport and Unstoppable Force is available. Smitty J is recalling. He has got Home Guard as well. SK have stepped up to the plate, and this could be a real bad teleport. Pings have gone down behind them. Candy Pan is about to step right into range.
Well, let's find out if Smitty pulls that trigger. I really like Jesse going with a slightly greedy build, Bloodthirster, because there's not a lot of armor to deal with inside of SK. Good barrel from Sven Skeren will slow the movement speed from Smitty J. Defensive rocket jump over the wall from Candy Panda, and SK, they're now, and they're split up. Noxiac's in a little bit of trouble. Freddy, you're on the wrong side of the law, and Gamers 2 want to punish. We do see Kikis is caught out. The shockwave doesn't really do a lot. That's a defensive flash away from Perks. Candy Panda's in and amongst the thick of it. He's got caught by the Fate's Call. They've traded 1 for 1, but Jesse's so healthy. He's got flash available if he wants to chase. Fox will go down. A double kill for Jesse, killing the man who replaced him on SK Gaming. And Gamers 2 extend their gold lead, trading 1 for 3.
It looked to have been a much better setup for SK when it came to just the ultimates objectively. Everything else, if you looked at the positioning, just not really in the fight. The Unstoppable Force Shockwave was not connecting on the people it needed to. However, SK was so split that they couldn't end up taking that fight. Gamers 2 end up taking the Baron from it and the fight. That's the kind of fight that Gamers 2 should have punished for themselves, but they couldn't because of how SK were just spread out.
And I want to watch Candy Panda because he goes in really, really deep. I believe he got caught up by that Fate's Call as well.
Yeah, looked like he does get caught out by Hybrid. That ends it in the middle of 3 members of Gamers 2, and Kick is bouncing around at the side. Has so much damage right now. 3 kills in that fight for 1. Noxiac did get away, but it was just because G2 didn't want to continue chasing him. And this game has become incredibly hard now for SK to actually hold on. They do have some decent wave clear, but so much of it is going to be magic damage, so that when the Baron buff minions arrive at their doorstep, it's going to be tough to clear. But Dragon is the next priority for Gamers 2.
Dragon number 4. Yep. 1 away from Aspect. It'll be a few minutes, so Baron will at least have timed out. Smitty's pushing out the bottom lane, and I think the top lane needs to be dealt with. We'll see how that breaks out. I feel like it'll push towards Gamers 2, so somebody has to go deal with that in a few minutes, and that should allow Gamers 2 to get into the last remaining inner turrets. But as it stands, G2, they've grouped up. They've got all of their ultimates available. And they're just looking to force SK's hand.
Top's actually going to just ever so slightly push in.
Nice. So that's good for G2.
Just for G2.
Slow push.
It was by about a third of a health bar on a minion, but will very slowly push in for them, which is what they want right now. It buys G2 some extra time, lulls SK into a false sense of having a wave pushed far out. A massive stack is going to end up reaching them in the end of all things. But SK, they have to try and wave clear 2 waves now, although G2 now consolidate their wave pushing into bottom lane. Hook does go astray.
Yeah, Hybrid was tanking up that laser for a while. And we need to look. Unstoppable Force and Shockwave, those are the 2 keys. If Fox or Candy Panda go down, Gamers 2 can just break open the base and look towards a 2-way. Command Protect was on Smitty J. Death Sentence goes wide. There's the ball sitting on the floor. Reset back to Perks. Freddy takes a big chunk. Leandri's Torment is picked up by Perks as well on that Orianna. He wants to harass and poke down full health targets. Stress, the tower's down to 50% HP in Gamers 2. They're really using Baron.
And he's got an elixir of sorcery with it as well, so once he pops that, it's going to get even more damage coming through. Top lane is pushing through still. It's on its way, but the tower is already down for Gamers 2. Slow and Steady wins that race. And it certainly has been a long time coming for Gamers 2 to maybe put themselves 1 game away from the LCS if they manage to crack that Nexus.
4 attempts at qualifying for the LCS, and Gamers 2 are on the verge of going 2-0 in this series. They've got super minions. They've got Baron, I believe, just timing out. So they're not going to have, but look at that minion wave for the top inner turret. I don't think SK are going to arrive here in time. Candy's going to do a decent job of killing all the minions. Actually, he's going to do a fantastic job. And that will stall this push for a few more waves.
G2 are going to have to back away. I want to kind of take a look at how much gold they're sat on right now. Only about 1,000 each, so it's not going to be too much more. However, Smitty J is going to finish that Abyssal Scepter. There's going to be a couple more key items being picked up. Hex Drinker was earlier picked up for Jesse, and picks himself up as Zeal alongside it. So kind of looking for odds and ends as we head towards the late game.
Yes and no, because I like the Hex Drinker shield, plus the Command Protect shield, plus the ML, plus the Bloodthirster shield. So as long as Jesse has time to overcharge that BT, I feel like the upfront burst from Fox may not be enough just to pop him down. We'll see if that proves true, because we are 34 minutes into the game. Fox has got Void Staff, Ludens almost at death cap. Once that death cap is completed, it'll be a big hit.
I mean, this is kind of like a safety build out of Jesse, in the sense that realistically Fox should never be one-shotting Jesse. I mean, the problem is there's a Malphite that should be standing between Jesse and Fox. So Fox should be way too busy trying to deal with the Malphite that's ulting him to ever look to get onto the Kalista. That doesn't mean it won't happen, But Freddy has been hooked in. G2 get engaged on.
They are. There's the box. Perks gets knocked backwards. The shockwave just to save his life. Perks is in full retreat. The explosion will not be enough to kill him. And now Sven is overcommitted. Despite the hook, despite the engage, Candy goes forward. He does get Perks. It'll get a reset. Allows him to get out. But here comes Kickers. Here comes Jesse. A double kill for Kickers. He's going to get himself a triple kill. SK Gaming are aced. There's supers in the base. And Gamers 2 are pushing for the Nexus. Gamers 2 will go 2-0. And they punish SK every step of the way. One game away from the 2016 LCS. And that is going to give Gamers 2 so much confidence.
This game was a lot more about Gamers 2 making their own plays than just how Game 1 was SK making a little bit of a mess of some of their own. Gamers 2 running a composition, or at least a style that we've seen in other regions, bringing it here, and SK trying for a Protect the Candy Panda composition again, and a second time around, it doesn't work. The execution, just a couple of plays here and there, just didn't quite line up, and easily Gamers 2 can use a heavy engage composition to just shut them down.
Yeah, and just really well played. I think from Gamers 2, you can see some of the growth in terms of their playstyle, pushing multiple lanes. They got a Baron. They used the Baron to siege effectively. They had a slow pushing lane top. So there's even pre-planning coming in here from Gamers 2, thinking ahead, planning a few steps. For SK, dropping the ball a little bit. That mid-game overcommit to Jesse in the top lane really sealed the deal for them in that match.
Yeah, and you know, Jesse actually had a very solid game. We talk about how he likes to go even. This game 4-0 and 13.
Yeah.
So you can't ask for too much more, especially in a composition where you're not really the primary focus of everything. It's the Orianna and the Malphite that are looking to kick off the engage, and then you just kind of clear out. So, you know, Jesse's actually looking very comfortable on the stage once again. I'm impressed by Jesse in this series.
As am I. And I am impressed by Gamers 2 as well. They're working together as a unit. They succeed and fail as a unit. In Game 1, the mistakes that they had was because they overcommitted together as a group.
Right.
And now in Game 2, those mistakes actually happen significantly less, and they were able to punish SK. I mean, when you look at the post-game damage graphs, it's actually very even. 18,000 damage for Perks, 18,000 damage for Jesse, 15,000 damage for Smitty J. So very close. And Kick is 14k himself, very evenly balanced between the multiple damage threats on the Gamers 2 squad.
The one thing, though, is that this composition just isn't working for SK.
Yeah.
I think they need to depart the Lulu first pick, which sounds so strange to say, because that, if you get Lulu as a first pick, is normally what you would like from a team, but you can see that they're going over strategy. For the next game, I'd like to see them drop the Lulu from first pick. Look for something else. Look for one of the compositions that they actually succeeded with maybe in summer, because they never played the Lulu in a solo lane, and they... you know, didn't do too badly with it.
We heard from Danush. He has been an analyst on the side of SK all split long, and you know, they have a new coach, they have a new support, and now SK Gaming, they're on the ropes. They need a win in this next game if they want to stay alive and fight for a chance on the LCS stage in 2016. When we're back, we could be hearing the last of SK Gaming for the first time since the LCS began. They have their last chance in just a few minutes. Gamers 2 can overcome SK. Kickers has flashed aggressively, as has Smitty J. Here comes the fat man. Svenskara knocks him under a tower. First blood to Freddy. Flash over the wall, but look at Baron. It's going to get stolen. SK secures it. Gamers 2 made the Baron bait, and it didn't work off.
How many gagas? It's a flash on me.
Tristana and Gragas. Tristana and Gragas.
I hook. Victor no flash. Lantern. Nice.
Can we take inhib or
you can get checks, guys. I chase.
5 seconds.
Gamers 2 will go 2-0